Good afternoon, everyone. This is Yvette Carnell from Breaking Brown in Your Black World. And if you have been following the news this week, if you have been following Breaking Brown this week, or if you have been following anyone else in black media this week, hopefully you are already aware of the shitstorm that is surrounding our boy Reverend Al Sharpton. Now, you know, if you followed anything that I've said, anything that I've written, that insofar as I go, Al Sharpton is just a street preacher who's kind of gotten on and is kind of manipulating the black community and who serves as like the pit bull for the White House right now. But what I really want to break down right now is this $20 billion allegation against Al Sharpton by Byron Allen and other black-owned media people who are saying that basically, you know, Al Sharpton got on for cheap for what Byron Allen describes as a chicken dinner. Al Sharpton got on for a chicken dinner payoff and boxed everyone else out. Now, what I really want to break down, like I really want to break this down and really go into why this is so important. Like, we really have to understand why these allegations are so important. And let me just throw something out first of all. It doesn't matter what you think about Byron Allen. I don't know anything about the guy's politics. I'll just assume that given what he does, given that he's worth about $200 to $300 million, that the guy is pretty well off. He's a capitalist. He gave an interview with the Daily Caller. He's probably a conservative. I don't know. I can't call it. But the truth of the matter is what we need to focus on right now isn't who Byron Allen is, because that's really a fallacy. That's an awful argument to go and attack Byron Allen and say, well, it's coming from this conservative guy. You know, you can't really trust him, or look who he's married to. You all have to stop that. The truth of the matter is, what really matters here is whether Byron Allen is right or whether Byron Allen is wrong. That is the key here. Now let's look at what he says in this $20 billion lawsuit against Comcast, Urban League, NAACP, it's against Al Sharpton. What he's saying is that these organizations have taken payoffs. And when you look at Sharpton, let's go all the way back. When Sharpton got his MSNBC gig, the National Association of Black Journalists went crazy because they were saying to themselves, and they were saying on their listserv, that this guy has no history in media. He doesn't know what he's doing. And there are plenty of black journalists who would have been better at that. So what happened? Well, the allegation came out that he was, Al Sharpton blessed the Comcast merger, basically said, hey, hands off. I'm not going to say anything about what you do here as long as you give me the hookup in the way of a $750,000 a year MSNBC job. If you do that, I'll be quiet. I'll be the pit bull for the White House. I'll jump when you tell me to jump, and I'll say how high. So let's bring it to this $20 billion Byron Allen lawsuit, right? What Byron Allen is basically saying is that not only did Al Sharpton take a payoff, but he's not even good at taking payoffs. Byron Allen is worth $200 to $300 million, and what he's saying is that Comcast won't even let me use their networks. They won't even let me have distribution through their channels. They have boxed me out, right? And what this also shows you is that Byron Allen, this guy who's worth $200 to $300 million, from what I saw online, has to sue to get a seat at the table. Now, the first point is that Al Sharpton has taken away his seat at the table for $750,000. So not only did you sell out, how cheap did you sell out for? $750. There are people who are in local media who get paid more than $750 a year. This guy who is unqualified, or who, point two, probably took a seat away from a journalist who could have used it, who could have done a good job. And another point, that's a point that Byron Allen makes as well, is that this guy struggles with the teleprompter, and these are not my words, these are Byron Allen words, that every day, because of that, we all get treated at 6 o'clock to illiteracy. We get treated to a guy who kind of fumbles his way through because he got the hookup. So what you're looking at in terms of this race leader that we have in Al Sharpton is a guy not only who's a hustler, but who can't even play the game. He's not even good at the exchange. And the second point that Byron Allen makes is, what is the point of a race leader? Why do we have a race leader? Black people don't speak another language. Why do we have these people who stand for us and say, you know what, I represent black people. I am this person who represents black people, and I can interpret black people for you. I can tell you what they think and feel, and I can keep them at bay, which is basically the third point here, which is what Byron Allen accuses Obama and Sharpton of being. He says these two people are in cahoots. Obama's in cahoots because he basically uses Sharpton to kind of keep black people in place and do what he needs them to do. And Sharpton gets the hookup. He has a tax bill that, I don't know what's happened to it. It just vanished. He has a nice job. He has a nice gig. He gets hookups from AT&T. He gets hookups from Comcast for a little or nothing. And that's what happens. So I think, this whole thing brings into account the necessity of having a race leader, because once you have a race leader in place, that person can sell you out. That's just the nature of having a person who is supposed to speak for the black race. And that's what comes down in this lawsuit. That's what you get from this Byron Allen lawsuit. This dude says basically that Comcast pays businesses that work on his network like $11 billion. White corporations, $11 billion that do business with Comcast and distribute through Comcast on their platform. Only $3 million goes to black-owned media. $3 million. Now, this is happening while Al Sharpton is there. This is a travesty. This is only a portion of this is only a small fraction of what is paid. But what is Al Sharpton doing about it? And you have to ask yourself, why isn't Al Sharpton doing anything about it? If this were another company that he wasn't getting paid by, Al Sharpton would be on the street screaming like he was crazy. But because he's getting the hookup for a little, as Byron Allen says, a little chicken dinner payout, he's good. He's fine because he's getting the hookup. This has never been about black people. This has never been about the welfare of black people where Al Sharpton is concerned. This is about Al Sharpton. This is about Al Sharpton being able to live out in wherever he lives with the Trader Joe's in the basement in Manhattan or wherever and go smoke cigars with people who work on Wall Street. This is what this is about. It's never been about you. And that's why he hasn't taken a stand against Comcast for basically blocking out black-owned media. And this is very important to me and people like me because I own a black media platform. I work for a black media platform. So I have to ask myself, what are people like Sharpton, what are they really doing? And what does it really say about this mantra of pulling yourself up by your bootstraps? If Byron Allen, a black guy who's worth $200 to $300 million, has to sue Comcast to get a seat at the table, this guy's worth millions and he still can't get a seat at the table without filing a lawsuit. So I think in terms of the breakdown, we have to question 4 things, really. We have to question having racial spokespeople in the first place. What's the necessity of that? There's no white racial spokesperson. Why do we need one? I think you have to also question, even if you're going to have a racial or even if you're going to pick someone to speak for your community, you have to get someone who knows how to play the political game. You can't get someone who has no resume, who came up as a pseudo-activist in New York, as a sort of street preacher without a church. That doesn't bespeak a serious community. You're not a serious person. We're not a serious people if those are the people we choose to do our bidding. And I think it does call into context what I just said in terms of the do for self. In terms of, this guy, he's worth all this money. He's just, he's a hero to entrepreneurs, I'm sure. But look at him. Now he's just saying, white people won't let me in. So all of these things come into account when we're thinking about Al Sharpton and why it's necessary to not only let him go, to not only say, hey, Al Sharpton, as far as I'm concerned, he never should have had a time, but your time is up. And it's time for you to walk away. And when we get rid of Al Sharpton, the question then becomes, when we get rid of these race explainers who are going to go by the wayside because they were really only there to prop up Obama. These networks really didn't want them. When we get rid of these people, the question is, what happens next? What do we do next? Where do we go from here? So I think those are questions that we should consider going forward. And I think we should come up with some serious answers to those questions. And that is my breakdown for today. And I want you to think about that, and I want you to talk to me about that. Facebook me at YvetteDC on Twitter, breakingbrown.com.